Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar in line with our COVID-19 comms pack this week. So today's session this afternoon, we're going to be covering keeping children occupied at home. My name's Mel. I'm the Quality and Process Audit Manager here at Care First, but I have been the Service Manager for many years. So this is something that I think will be really interesting for those parents that have joined today to get some tips and advice. So just to start off, really, I mean, with changes to our usual routines and everyday life being affected by this developing COVID-19 pandemic, many of us with children at home may be facing new challenges that perhaps we haven't had to face before, whether that be juggling work without childcare, our usual childcare routines, whether we're having to homeschool, whether we've got concerns around early years development, whether it's, baby and toddler groups that you may be usually attending, or nurseries, that kind of thing. Or just really trying to have some sense of normality and structure at home. And it's really important that whilst we're adapting to these changes, which many of us have never had to consider or do before, that we don't become overwhelmed really by taking on these new responsibilities. So this session really will just go through some useful tips for ways in which we can keep children occupied at home and ways really that we can adjust to these new routines as best we can to fit everybody, not just the parents, but the children as well. So what we'll do, I'll run through the content, which it's not going to be a very long session, but I hope that you'll find it useful and take some useful tips and advice away from it. If you have any questions at all throughout today's session, we'll do a Q&A piece at the end. So if you could just keep those questions to the end, we can go through those together. But this session today is going to cover things like homeschooling, ways to keep children active, obviously from the home, getting children involved and learning new things whilst they're at home, and using this as a real opportunity to get them involved in things around the home and with new things that they may not have considered before. Ways to really add structure to your day and theirs, and just some tips around if you are working from home, things that might be useful for you if you are also trying to keep children occupied at the same time. I am a mum myself and also working from home, so I can fully appreciate the challenges that can bring. And just to end with, really, we'll just highlight some useful links and apps that you may find useful. And the thing with keeping children occupied from home, obviously, the session has to cover everybody. It's ranging from children, as I said, that might be toddlers or attend nursery and preschool ages, right through to those that are, in secondary schools or colleges. So it's trying to kind of fit the audience for everybody as to what's going to be helpful. So I hope that you'll find it useful. Okay, so with homeschooling then, to start off with, it might feel really daunting to think that as well as this whole new change in our routines, that you're now having to also take on the responsibility of homeschooling. But there are many ways to be able to aid productivity, and it's really about making it fun for them, and not being too heavy. If your children are unlikely to spend the day at a desk doing their homework all day from, the normal times of schooling from 9 until 3, a useful way of engaging them in learning is by doing things like real-time interactive activities. And as I said, it's about making it fun and engaging for them. So the BBC have got some online resources there called BBC Teach, and that hosts over 30 recordings of interactive, short 30 to 40-minute programs called live lessons, and that was originally designed for use in the classroom. So that might be a good way to get them engaged in something a little bit different than just pen and paper and working through project books. It might just get them a bit more involved in what they're doing. It can really be beneficial not to overload children with a heavy schedule every single day, because that can make them feel really overwhelmed and not able to not enable them to really absorb all the information that they're trying to take in. You know, they work in the same way as adults. You know, we don't respond well to really heavy workloads and really heavy schedules. It can be find it really difficult and overwhelming to manage. So we need to be really mindful of, you know, how much pressure we're putting under them at this time, because it's an uncertain time for absolutely everybody. You know, especially kind of younger children that don't really understand the reasoning behind all of this. So try and keep school time at home to be, you know, small manageable chunks that are spread out throughout the day. It's important that we include regular breaks during our day for them to refuel, making sure that they're kept hydrated. You know, just as important amongst adults as well, if you're working from home, making sure that you are taking those regular breaks and keeping hydrated. All these things are just as important for us as it is for them. So try and consider what their day would look like from school. You know, when are their breaks? How often do they have breaks? You know, do they have a mid-morning break for 20 minutes? Do they then have a lunch break? Is there then a second afternoon break for them for 20 minutes? Just try and break up the day and give them some normality to their structure as well, as they would have in a normal school or college day. And as I said, it's just as important as it is for adults to separate their working space as well. So I don't know if any of you attended last week's session that I ran around working from home, and if it is possible, you know, at home, to be able to create a separate working space for them from their kind of usual play space or place that they would spend their evenings with you relaxing. Try and separate a working space for them, because it will really help to add structure to their day and separate out their, you know, school working time to their time at home with you, and add, as I said, add structure to their routine, and try and keep that routine where possible. So the second stage is around keeping them active. You know, it can be a really worrying time at the moment to think that our children might not be getting the regular exercise that they need and that they're used to getting every week. You know, perhaps they're not having their usual PE classes that they would have every week that they would normally have at school. Or maybe you've got really active children and they're used to going out to sports club or after school clubs or different activities and hobbies that they do usually outside, and they're not getting that interaction or that you know, regular exercise through those channels. But there are a number of ways that we can keep children active whilst at home. Encourage them to take part in online video-led activities and workouts. There is so much out there at the moment to try and keep people active from home. Joe Wicks, as some of you may have already heard, it's been a really popular and a great response from what he's doing. He said that he was going to become the nation's PE teacher at the start of this pandemic, and I think it's safe to say that he's been really successful in doing that. He is running PE sessions for an hour via his YouTube channel, The Body Coach, and that's Monday to Fridays at 9 o'clock. So that's, you know, that's really something, if you have the time and abilities to do that as well, for the whole families to get involved in. As I said, you know, it's about making it fun and a memorable time for children as well. We mentioned earlier on around early years development. If you're normally taking children to things like sensory classes or things like tumble tots or toddler activities and that kind of thing for preschoolers, there are a number of sensory classes again and videos online and online groups for early years developments to get the little ones involved in as well and keeping them active. And as I said, you know, try and include yourself in that where you can and make it something fun for everybody to be involved in. So moving on to the next area, this is around kind of getting them involved and learning new things. So learning doesn't just have to be, you know, setting yourself into school books and assignments and, you know, bogging yourself down with all of those formal ways of learning. And you might like to encourage children to get involved with things around the house. So put those home economics lessons into practice, put those technology lessons into practice. You know, this could be something like a cookery class, a sewing class, or just even getting them involved in daily chores around the house and, you know, learning and understanding what is involved in running a home and basic life skills like, you know, learning how to use the washing machine or, you know, learning how to make fun meals and the running and upkeep of a house generally. You know, get them involved in those things and as I said, you know, get everybody involved in the family as well. And now's a really good time for them to learn new things as well. There might be something that they've been saying for a while, I really want to have time to be able to do this, or I'd like to learn something new. So that could be a new recipe, it could be a new language. If they're really adventurous, it could be around arts and crafts, or taking up a new hobby, or even just exploring the outdoors. Now, obviously, that can be limited for some people, and we are limited to how often we are able to go out each day and where we can go. But if you're lucky enough to have a garden, or if you've got areas that you can go for a walk with the family, try and incorporate that into their learning. It could be that you're looking at the nature around you, whether it's bugs or whether it's leaves or types of trees, or teaching them about the clouds and all the different types of clouds and what they mean. There's so many things around us in nature that we can involve them in and help them learn new things from. And it might be something that with that new knowledge, whatever it is that they've learned that's new, that they could then incorporate that into a school project, or incorporate it into some school work that they might be doing, and putting things together, and writing down what they've learned, and put visuals in there as well, and turn it into a bit of a project or a brainstorm. And as we've said kind of throughout, it's about making it enjoyable for them. Don't feel pressurized that you have to spend time with them to learn all these new things, and getting them involved in things they've never done when they're already trying to adjust to a new and difficult time. But getting something for the whole family to enjoy. There's things at the moment that are out there, like visiting a virtual museum. You can go and follow that virtually and look around, or you can look at zoo or aquarium life cams as well. They're doing trips virtually around the zoos and aquariums that, again, they can learn new things about sea life and animals and everything through that. So, or it might just be something as simple as setting up a family quiz. A lot of people are doing that at the moment, through channels like video messaging and Skype and things like that, where it keeps us connected with the whole family. Because let's not forget that children are usually used to socializing and spending time with their friends, and perhaps seeing certain family members regularly, and they may be feeling really cut off from that connections in the same way that we might be feeling that. So it might be a good plan over the Easter holidays, if you were due to be seeing family over this bank holiday weekend or throughout the Easter break, to set up, a weekly chat with your family. Doesn't have to be a quiz. It could be something like just meeting for a drink together, virtually, and it just can really help to keep children and us adults feel connected still to those channels of support that we're normally used to. Or it might be something just as simple as dusting off the board games from Christmas and just sitting down together and enjoying some family time. There can be lessons in those board games as well. If you wanted to tie it into their schoolwork, you could be playing Monopoly and giving them some lessons around money and counting currency and that kind of thing. So there are ways to incorporate learning into so many activities that we do and can do as a family and enjoy together. So the next area is around adding structure, and I know that there has been a lot of this, particularly around the media and social media at the moment, and I appreciate that it can be making us as parents feel quite pressured to be setting stringent routines on our children. Generally speaking, children look for, and they tend to respond well to structure and routine in the same way that adults do, because what that does is it gives adults and children a sense of control. They understand the structure of their day and what's expected at certain times, and just really helps the overall balance of our senses of control when we have a set routine. It can be really beneficial to put a structure together for them, if you think it's going to be helpful and if you feel that your child would respond well to that, because it gives them something to visualize, and they can follow that throughout the week and see what stage of the day that they're at and give them things to look forward to. So you might find it useful to put together something like a weekly timetable or a schedule clock, ensuring that you add regular kind of free play, and give them time to be able to break up their day. I just want to show you an example of what the schedule clock looks like, because I think this is really, really creative, and it's been created by an Instagram blogger of Today Our Children, and it just really breaks up the day. You've got learning things in there like days of the week, the weather, our routine for the morning and structure. So, you know, brushing your teeth, having breakfast, going outside, that kind of thing. And then it just really talks through each area of the day. So what we're doing at midday, what's happening in the afternoon and evening, what we're doing at night, and then what plans you might have for the following day. So obviously you can build this up as, you know, as much as you'd like to for them, and include things in there like schoolwork or regular preschool things that they might be doing. And just as I said, ensuring that you're adding plenty of free play and breaks throughout the day, just so that it's not too much of a heavy or stringent schedule. I mean, equally, some children and parents, you might be feeling that a timetable really is too rigid during this time of such, really exceptional circumstances and uncertainty. And, maybe you feel your children just aren't going to respond well or cooperate well with a stringent schedule that you're putting forward for them. And if that's the case, it's really about saying, don't feel pressure to do this. It's really about doing what is best for you as a family unit, and not feeling pressurized to do things a certain way because you've seen other mums doing it, or dads doing it online, and they've got all these fancy timetables and schedules put together. But it's about doing what is best for you as a family and trying to fit in learning, activity, and a bit of family time where you can, and just incorporate their learning into what you're doing together, and just doing what fits you best without feeling added pressure at an already anxious time. Okay, so for those parents who are also working from home, as well as having to kind of keep children occupied and deal with the kind of schooling and activities and everything else for them, as I said, from a personal perspective, I can fully appreciate how challenging that can be, and it can be really challenging to keep children occupied whilst you're also working, and also just trying to keep some elements of our own schedule intact as well. As adults, as we said, we look to our own schedule, we look to try and keep our own routines where possible, and it might feel like everything is out the window at the moment. So communication during this time, and I can't stress this enough, is really imperative. If you're living in a two-parent household, or even if your children's time is shared between both parents, it's so important that you can discuss your workloads with each other, so that you can establish how your working days can run effectively, really, alongside taking care of your children together. And during such an unprecedented time, it's really important that we're not just having those conversations as parents, but that we're also being honest with our employers about our circumstances at home, and what we're juggling at home whilst trying to work, and trying to establish a schedule with your employer that's going to work best for them as well as for you. So it might be that they're able to consider things like flexible working arrangements or reasonable adjustments that could be made to be able to help you work effectively from home whilst having your children with you. And then lastly, it just includes some useful links and educational apps. So some apps here are, there's Audible, which is currently offering hundreds of children's books for free. So you go to your app store, respective of the platform that you're using, and download the app from there. There's a free 3-month language course through Rosetta Stone. She's offering school children free access to the popular language courses for 3 months. And there's more than 20 languages to choose from on there. So it might be for some secondary school children, or maybe in some cases primary school children, that they're already learning a language through school. So it might be that you can use this alongside some of their homeschooling for that particular topic, or it might be that they're feeling adventurous and they want to be able to learn something completely new to go alongside that. So that's something to get them involved with. Carol Alderman is also offering a free maths school that's currently free, and that's accessed via the Maths Factory website. And then spelling apps as well. Serlinkalot is free until the 12th of June. So if you sign up there, they will send you a free code, which will give you this discount that you need to be able to use that platform. I've just listed here some other useful websites. So there's primary school resources, GCSE resources here, workbooks for primary schools. If you haven't, had packs enough to keep them engaged, there might be some useful things through there, which is on Teach It Primary. And they also provide workbooks for secondary ages as well, but those are on separate sites, so you just have to enter the URL. For example, this one is Teach It English, so you would put Teach It Science or Teach It Maths, and that would then take you to those respective sites. And again, for primary school resources, there's Classroom Secrets as well. So there's some really useful resources and information just here. If you wanted to access any of this content again, what you would need to do, if you allow half an hour once the session has ended, the recording of the session will be available through the same link that you used to be able to access this session today, which was featured on our comms calendar for this week. So if you wanted to ever access the recording again, just to revisit some of this information, then please feel free to do so. So I also just wanted to cover off some information about Care First. My hope is that everyone that's attended today has hopefully at least heard of us before, but for those that haven't, we are a professional counselling, information and advice service, and we offer support for absolutely any issue, whether that be arising from a workplace issue or an issue at home. You know, in an ideal world, we could say leave work at work and leave home at home, but certainly at the moment, you know, those are one and the same areas, so it can be really difficult to separate those issues from our lives, and that they don't have a knock-on effect on each other either. So we do support with absolutely any issue that might be causing you stress or anxieties or just general worries. The Care First service is available 24 hours a day, so there are counsellors available around the clock to support you in whatever it is that you might need some help with. They will just initially support you in the moment when you first call and really assess what the need is for you. You know, it might be that you just need to have a one-off call that day, go away and work on some things that you may have discussed, and they will ask you things like what may have prompted your call today, and really try and establish a focus for your call and the piece of work that may be coming with you. It might be that you would benefit from ongoing support from us, of which that at the moment can be provided over the telephone in a contracted environment. So you would speak with the same counsellor when you call, and that could be weekly sessions. Or it might just be that you need to use it on an ad hoc basis. It might just be that, you know, you call as and when you need some support, and they can provide you with that support in the moment. We also have qualified Care First information specialists available 8 AM till 8 PM Monday to Friday. And this is a really, really useful tool, because it's not always just the emotional things in our lives that cause us the most worries or stress, but it's actually the practical things as well, and they can all mount up quite quickly. You know, with certain situations, it could be that we're going through, they will also have a number of practical elements involved with it, which can make situations feel a lot more stressful and anxious than they perhaps need to be. And sometimes just having the answers to those practical elements can help us feel a lot more in control of the situation. They're all Citizens Advice Bureau trained staff, and they are, as I said, available 8 AM till 8 PM Monday to Friday. You can also access online counselling through our Care First lifestyle site. So your organisation will have provided you with a username and password to be able to access that site, which is unique to your organisation. So unfortunately, I can't include everybody's on here. But your organisation will have that information for you to be able to access. And there is a whole host of resources and information there. All of our COVID-19 content articles and webinars are featured on that site as well, if you wanted to use that as a portal to access any previously recorded sessions or information. And as I said, online counselling is available through that facility too. We also offer management support. So if you have management responsibility or leadership responsibilities within your organisation or within your working role, you can receive advice from our management trained advisors on how best to handle situations, whether that be to do with absence management, disciplinaries, work productivity, difficult conversations about work performance or work situations. It can be really helpful to have that kind of impartial opinion really on how best to handle a situation, and we're able to provide support with that as well. And I also just wanted to touch upon the confidentiality of the Care First service and just really provide some reassurances here. So nothing that you ever say to Care First is ever passed back to your organisation or disclosed to any third party at all. The only time in which we would break confidentiality, as I'm sure you can appreciate, is in these three really exceptional circumstances, which is the threat to life of another person, child protection and vulnerable adult issues, and the risk to the security of your organisation. And that can be either data or structural risks. So I really hope today's session has been useful for you, and I hope that there's been some useful tips and advice to be able to take away, and hopefully make this process a bit more enjoyable, and something for all the family to be involved in, and making it fun for children as well. And I hope that information at the end there around the Care First service and just a reassurance really of the range of support that is available to you, is a reassurance at this time of feeling anxious and not knowing where the situation may go. So if there are any additional questions, we will go to a Q&A now, but if there's anything you think of after today's session or any more information that you might require, please do feel free to email us at info@care-first.co.uk. Thank you so much for taking the time to join today.